How does a nation even begin to respond when its children are attacked? Today, we're going to dig into Pakistan's counter-terrorism strategy, a massive, sweeping plan that was born from one single, horrific event that created this unbelievable moment of national unity. Let's explore how that tragedy was turned into action.
Okay, let's start with a date. December 16th, 2014. For anyone in Pakistan, this date is, well, it's seared into the collective memory. This was the day of the Army public school attack in Peshawar. It was a horrifying act of terrorism that went after innocent children, and in doing so, it just shattered the nation's sense of security in a way nothing ever had before. But, in the face of all that grief, something really shifted. As NACTA's own reports put it, the attack galvanized the entire country. All the political squabbling was suddenly put aside, and this powerful national consensus emerged. Everyone agreed. Something had to be done, and it had to be done right now. So yeah, this event wasn't just another tragedy, it really became a turning point. It created the political and public will for a decisive, coordinated, and frankly sweeping response to the terrorism that had plagued the nation for years.
So what do you do? When you're faced with an enemy that targets children, how does a country respond not just with force, but with a real strategy to take apart the entire ecosystem of terror? Well, the answer that emerged was swift, it was comprehensive, and it was all built around a single number.
The answer was a number. 20. A 20-point plan designed to hit every single facet of the problem, from the militants on the ground all the way to the ideologies that fuel them. And just think about how fast this all happened. We're talking just 8 days after the attack, on Christmas Eve of all days, the Parliament of Pakistan approved what they called the National Action Plan, or NAP. This wasn't some long, drawn-out debate. This was a swift, unified, national commitment.
So, let's take a closer look at what this plan was actually all about. It wasn't just one thing. It was a multi-pronged assault on terrorism, basically attacking the problem from every angle you can think of.
What's really crucial is how they structured it. You can see it here, broken down into 3 main areas. First up, you had disrupting militants with direct action, things like banning their organizations and setting up special courts. Then you had cutting off support, going after their money and their ability to communicate. And third, and this is maybe the most important part for the long game, was systemic reforms, overhauling the justice system and governance to try and stop this from ever happening again.
Okay, but a plan is just words on paper if you don't have a way to make it happen, right? So let's see how this was actually put into motion all across the country.
This timeline here gives you some really important context. You see, the coordinating body, NACTA, had actually been around since 2009, but it was kind of just sitting on a shelf. The 2014 attack was the catalyst, the shock to the system that activated it, leading to the plan's approval just days later. And by 2017, NACTA was in a position to give a really clear picture of the results. And this wasn't some order just shouted from the top down. The implementation was a massive team effort. You had federal ministries, provincial governments, all working together. And right in the middle of it all was the National Counter Terrorism Authority, NACTA, which was given the critical job of being the central monitor, the watchdog, making sure everything was actually getting done. So, the big question is, did it work? Let's get to the numbers. In 2017, NACTA released a big status report, and the data inside, well, it painted a pretty dramatic picture of the plan's impact. Let's start with this number, 98.3 million. That's how many mobile phone SIM cards were blocked. Think about that. They were trying to completely dismantle the communication networks that terrorists relied on to coordinate and operate. The scale of that is just massive. Next up, over 500,000 of what they called combing operations were carried out across the country. These were basically large-scale search and security sweeps, and those operations led to the arrests of over 228,000 people. This was a very direct, boots-on-the-ground effort to get militants off the streets. Now, a more controversial part of the plan was bringing back the death penalty for convicted terrorists. By 2017, 484 executions had been carried out. It was a clear signal that the state was taking a much, much harder line against terrorism.
You could really see the impact on the ground in a city like Karachi, which had been one of the country's most volatile spots. Just look at this chart. The operation there led to a huge drop in violence. Targeted killings fell by an incredible 91%, and murders were down 62%. These aren't just statistics. They represent a real, tangible increase in safety for millions of people. Another key area was sectarian violence, which has been a deeply rooted problem. Look at this comparison. You go from 185 cases back in 2012 all the way down to just 37 in 2016. It shows a significant, targeted success in one of the plan's specific goals.
So at the heart of all of this, the coordination, the data, the monitoring, was one organization, NACTA. Let's take a second to really understand what it is and what it does.
To put it simply, NACTA is the national brain for counterterrorism. It's the central organization responsible for dreaming up the policies and the big strategies, and then developing the action plans, like the NAP, to actually put them into practice.
And this slide really shows you how much they do. It's not just a think tank. They're gathering intelligence, creating strategy, monitoring the action plans, suggesting changes to the law, and even talking with international partners. NACTA really is the central nervous system for Pakistan's entire counterterrorism effort.
And their motto captures the spirit of the whole National Action Plan perfectly: Stand united against terrorism. It's a direct reflection of that national consensus that was forged in the horrible, dark days of December 2014.
Which brings us to a final thought. The numbers we've seen are really impressive, right? They show clear results from taking direct action. But that 20th and final point of the National Action Plan, that was about something deeper, reforming the entire criminal justice system. So the question that's left is this: after all the initial successes, how does a nation shift from those kinetic operations to the slow, difficult, but absolutely essential work of systemic reform to ensure a peace that actually lasts? That, ultimately, is the long-term challenge.